Alicia panted heavily. She gripped the white bedsheets beneath her. I can't go on anymore. I've reached my limit. Eric buried his face in the crook of her neck. His teeth pressed against her skin. Alicia let out a low moan. Lord Eric. Eric pinned her to the bed. His palms gripped her waist. Alicia tilted her head back. She pushed against his broad shoulders. Please, stop. She suddenly pushed him away. She ran barefoot across the floor. Her long dress swayed in the air. Eric pinned her against the wooden door. It would be too rude to go out like this. Alicia panted heavily. This is all your fault. It's almost dawn. Eric turned his head toward her. One last time. Truly, the very last time. Alicia looked at him. Liar. You said the same thing last time. And the time before that, too? I won't believe you ever again. Eric cupped the back of Alicia's head. His fingertips sank into her pink hair. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. I knew that this man who desired me insatiably was my husband, Eric Lanth. 3 months ago, we were just a married couple in name contract partners. It all began with a war. In the year 1374 of the new calendar, the king of the Orion Empire passed away from illness. He left behind no heir's name. A succession crisis broke out. The court fell into chaos. The neighboring Eliza kingdom took advantage of the opening, intending to annex the southern territories of the empire. The flames of war burned for 5 years. Eric Lanthimos brought it all to an end. As the Grand Duke, he was 23 years old that year. At the break of dawn, commoners and nobles gathered on both sides of the streets. Waiting for the hero's triumphant return, Eric rode upon his war. Red flags billowed in the wind. The hero who saved the nation finally appeared. But he brought a trophy back in his arms. It was a symbol of shame. Alicia, the third princess of the Eliza kingdom, and the most unwelcome trophy the hero brought back. Alicia stood in the magnificent palace hall, her hands folded in front of her. A voice came from behind. The house of Viscount Solent sends its greetings. Grand Duchess. Alicia whipped her head around. He bowed in greeting, stuttering out official pleasantries. It is an honor to be here. To welcome all the guests who have traveled from afar. A burst of laughter erupted from the nobles whispered to one another. Her pronunciation is simply dreadful. It's been 3 years and she still can't speak the imperial language. Well, is this level of skill? They are nothing but a bunch of barbarians. Alicia froze in place. Her fingertips dug deep into her palms. Eric stepped closer. He called her name in a low voice. Alicia. Eric turned his head. His purple eyes swept across the room. The noise was instantly silenced. Your mother has arrived. She is waiting for you in the drawing room. If you wish, you may leave this banquet early, Alicia replied softly. Yes. Eric turned his face. Is something wrong? Alicia lowered her eyes. It's nothing. Eric withdrew his gaze. I understand. This was merely a political marriage in name, a false symbol of peace between the two nations. But I didn't know then that in just a few short hours, everything would completely collapse. Sunlight filtered through the shade of the manor's trees, falling upon the spires of the white stone mansion. The fountain rose and fell in the center of the courtyard. Alicia pushed open the heavy wooden doors. She walked quickly into the drawing room. Her mother, Sylvia, put down the teacup in her hand. She turned around. Oh, Alicia, you look completely transformed. You truly look like a noble lady in every sense of the word. Who would have thought you were once the daughter abandoned by your father? Alicia stood with her head bowed. She avoided her mother's gaze. Mother, I've had enough. Sylvia's gaze fell upon Alicia's ears. Oh my goodness, did the Grand Duke give these to you? She reached out to touch Alicia's earrings. Her fingertips brushed against the green gemstone. This color really suits your complexion. It seems you are living well. She scrutinized her daughter's face. How is your married life? Alicia turned her head away. It's the same as always. We haven't seen each other in so long. Is this all you care about? Sylvia stepped closer. Listen, is there still no news of a pregnancy after 3 years of marriage? You must understand your current situation. If the Grand Duke finds a mistress and has a child, everything you have will be gone. Alicia clenched her fists. There is nothing I can do. He is always busy with military affairs. I only see him a few times a year. When he is away, those servants find every possible way to torment me. My hemlines were slashed with sharp blades. My bed was soaked with cold water. My dinner plate was piled with rotten food. Alicia roared. I want to go home. Mother, I don't want to stay in this place anymore. Sylvia suddenly swung her palm. The sound of a crisp slap echoed through the room. Alicia's face was knocked to one side. Sylvia looked down at her daughter, who had collapsed on the floor. Where on earth do you think you can go back to? Have you forgotten the kind of life you lived before, you illegitimate daughter? Do you really think you can just waltz back to your home country and continue being a princess? She shouted at her daughter. Wake up. Stop playing the tragic heroine and wasting time. You should be thinking about how to secure your position as the Grand Duchess. Mother was right. 3 years was enough time for me to start romanticizing the past. Life as an illegitimate daughter was hell from the very beginning. After the defeat of Eliza, Grand Duke Lanthimos personally proposed a political marriage for the sake of peace. The first and second princesses were born of the legal wife. They would never accept such a humiliation. This task ultimately fell to me. A lowly illegitimate daughter was transformed into the Grand Duke's fiancée. My mother finally lived the life of a noble lady she had always dreamed of. Meanwhile, I was locked inside this magnificent birdcage. Sylvia held up an incense burner. This is a gift from me. Don't forget that you no longer have a home. To return to... Alicia opened the golden incense burner. Red powder flowed between her fingertips, emitting a sweet, cloying fragrance. Her eyes suddenly widened. Her pupils trembled violently in the shadows. Eric walked through the ornately decorated corridor, his cloak swaying with his movements. The attendant beside him reported in a low voice, "The itinerary for the trip to the duchy has been set. Neighboring countries have already signed the treaty. However, there are still remnants of the stubborn opposition. They remain loyal to the old regime." The attendant handed over a stack of documents. With a solemn expression, "The detailed information has been compiled. Please take a look." Eric stopped in front of the closed doors. He turned his head toward the servant, carrying a tray. "What happened?" The servant bowed slightly. "The madam's mother has already left. But the madam should still be in the room. No matter how much I knock, there is no response." Eric's brow furrowed slightly. A hint of doubt flickered in his purple eyes. He raised his voice. "Elise, are you in there?" "Answer me," he said, grasping the metal doorknob. He gave the handle a forceful twist with his fingertips. The door surprisingly wasn't locked. Eric pushed open the heavy wooden door. His gaze swept across the dim interior. "Alicia, I'm coming in." Alicia was kneeling on the cold floor. Her long pink hair was scattered messily over her shoulders. Her hands were pressed tightly against her chest. Her fingertips were digging into her skin. Alicia curled up on the red carpet. Her rapid gasps echoed in the empty room. "It's so hot, my body feels like it's burning." "Lord Eric." A voice drifted over. "Alicia, am coming in now?" Alicia jerked her head up. "Wait," she cried, lunging toward the door. She pressed herself firmly against the door panel. "Don't come in?" Eric froze. "What are you doing in there?" Alicia pleaded in a low voice through the door. "I'm sorry. Something has happened. Please go to another room." Eric stood on the other side of the door. His purple pupils constricted slightly. "Your voice is trembling. What did your mother say to you?" Alicia's fingertips dug hard into her shoulders. Her breathing became increasingly ragged. Eric placed his hand against the doorframe. "Are you sick?" Alicia closed her eyes. She clenched her teeth. She forced the words out. "No," she said. Eric lowered his head in thought. "Then she must have scolded you." Alicia shook her head violently. Her forehead pressed against the cold wood. "It's not like that. It's nothing at all." She let out a sudden cry. "Please, don't ask any more." Eric raised his right hand. His palm rested against the door's surface. Commotion drifted from the end of the hallway. Several male guests looked puzzled. "What happened?" Eric's tone turned cold. "Open the door, Alicia. Otherwise, I will hack it open with my sword. I'm counting to 3. Alicia looked up abruptly. Her green pupils constricted violently. "Hack the door. Is he serious?" Eric gripped the hilt of his sword. His thumb pushed against the handle. Alicia was trembling. "If he actually does that, everyone will see what I look like right now." This pathetic, miserable appearance. The door slowly began to open. Alicia's fingers gripped the edge. "I'm only letting you come in alone?" Eric pushed through the gap in the door. His purple eyes narrowed sharply. Alicia was slumped on the floor. Her long pink hair was soaked through. Her face was flushed deep red. Her hands were clutching the front of her clothes tightly. "Please, Grand Duke." Eric turned his head. He looked at the butler behind him. "Take Charles and the guests elsewhere." He closed the door behind him. The heavy wooden door shut completely, cutting off the noise from outside. Eric walked toward the center of the room. A metal incense burner lay overturned on the carpet. Pink smoke swirled in the air. He leaned down to pick up the fallen spices. He fell into a long silence. Alicia clung to him. Her fingertips dug into his black uniform. "It's so hot. My body's about to char." Eric's fingers touched her cheek. In the past, this kind of touch always made me recoil. Now, it is my only salvation. Why is it that I should feel cold? Alicia tilted her head back. She stared into the eyes that were so close to her own. "Why?" "His body is burning hot today too, just like fire." Eric's breathing became heavy and labored. Sweat slid down his cheek. Seduction, incense. This was the method my mother used to survive in the red light district. By relying on this powder, she became the mistress of the King of Eliza. Now, this powder has passed from her hands into mine. My consciousness begins to blur. Alicia tilts her head back. her long pink hair cascading over her shoulders. Every instance of skin contact feels like an electric current surging through her body. Eric leans down, his purple eyes shimmering in the shadows. His words become difficult to comprehend. Eric grabs her shoulders, letting out a low shout, "Wake up." Alicia buries her head in the crook of his neck, her fingertips clutching his collar tightly. Her rapid breaths brush against his skin. Her body has completely spiraled out of control. She straddles him, her fingertips sliding into the gaps of his shirt, pulling it forcefully to both sides. These clothes are really in the way. Eric pins her wrists down. "That's enough. Stop moving around." Alicia lowers her head, letting out a muffled groan. Eric raises his hand, the calm returning to his purple eyes. He offers a low apology. "Forgive me for doing this while you are in pain." Alicia shakes her head violently, tears sliding down her cheeks. "It's not like that. I can't undo the belt. This feeling is terrible. Is it because I inhaled that powder?" All the grievances well up in my chest. My heart feels like it's about to explode. When was the last time I cried like this? Insults echo in my mind. "Filthy thing. You're just an illegitimate daughter. Shameless mongrel." The tears are completely out of control. Alicia collapses on the floor, letting her long hair hide her broken sobs. He walks deep into the palace. No matter how many tears fall, no matter what happens, the desperate screams, the voices only echo between the cold walls. Young Alicia hides behind the door, her hands gripping the doorframe tightly. Her mother, Sylvia, stands before the mirror adjusting her clothes. Without even looking back, Alicia curls up in the shadows, wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes with the back of her hand. That feeling of being abandoned. I remember the cold always following me like a shadow. Eric leans down, his purple eyes filled with anxiety. What happened? Alicia gazes at the man in front of her. A thought surfaces in her mind. Perhaps at this very moment, in front of this person, I can afford to be a little selfish. Eric reaches out to cup her face, wiping away the tears with his thumb. Alicia says, "Next time, please wear something that is easy to take off." Eric lowers his eyelids, whispering softly. "All right," he asks gently. "When tomorrow comes, will you regret everything that happened tonight?" Alicia does not answer. She suddenly presses her lips against his in a kiss. Sunlight outside the window passes through the lattice glass, spilling onto the layered white petals. Alicia lies on her side in the bed, her pink hair spread across the pillow. Her hands are tightly wrapped around the quilt. She opens her eyes, her green pupils reflecting the morning light. This wasn't a dream. The images of last night explode in her mind. Alicia suddenly sits up, covering her face tightly with both hands. A deep flush spreads across her face. "This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. What exactly did I do last night?" Eric stands with his back to Alicia, his voice deep and steady. "I know this marriage was not your intention. As long as you do not give your consent, I will never lay a finger on you. I only need to endure for 4 years. By then, you will regain your freedom." Alicia sat kneeling on the bed. She supported her body with both hands. "We are clearly just a contract couple. If this continues, we will become a real husband and wife. How should I face him now?" A soft sound came from outside the door, a rhythmic knocking directly against the wood. Alicia looked up in alarm. Martha pushed open the door. Standing in the morning light, she softly asked the young lady, "Are you awake? Are you feeling unwell?" Alicia suddenly straightened her back. She waved her hands repeatedly. "I am fine. Who are you?" Martha bowed slightly. "I am Martha." Alicia gazed at Martha. Her gentle face made her look like a good person. "I have never seen you before." Martha stepped forward. "Today is my first day on the job. For some reason, I was assigned to your side. Does this make you feel displeased?" Alicia shook her head quickly in denial. "Not at all. Compared to that cruel maid, she is 1,000 times better." Alicia tried to stand up. Her bare feet stepped onto the cold floor. Her ankles suddenly felt weak. Losing her balance, she fell backward. Martha let out a cry. "My lady," she reached out to support her shoulders. "Are you feeling unwell?" Alicia leaned in Martha's arms. Her voice was weak. "I am fine. I just suddenly feel like I have no strength." She suddenly remembered the entanglement from last night. A deep blush spread across her face. "Someone save me." Martha supported her as they walked down the long corridor. Alicia pushed her hand away. "I am okay. I consumed too much energy last night. I must eat something." She gazed at the sunlight outside the window. She originally wanted to eat breakfast in her room. To her surprise, it was already lunchtime. She bit her lower lip hard. Her eyes were full of resentment. "This is all that man's fault." The wooden stake split under the heavy blow. Wood chips flew into the air. Eric stood in the center of the courtyard. His short black hair was soaked with sweat. His right hand gripped a long sword tightly. He raised his left hand. He pressed his knuckles against his lips. His purple pupils trembled slightly. His breathing was rapid from the intense exercise. Martha stopped in her tracks. She reached out to cover her mouth. She let out an exclamation. It is the Grand Duke. Alicia's long pink hair fluttered in the wind. A blush rose to her face. The sound of her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She could not look away. Alicia lowered her head and covered her nose and mouth. Her long pink hair hung down both sides of her cheeks. Calm down. We are husband and wife. It is normal for that kind of thing to happen. Calm down. Eric appeared silently at the corner. His short black hair was slightly messy. He looked down at the young girl before him. What are you doing here? Alicia suddenly looked up. She let out a scream. Her hands twisted together. Her fingertips were white from the pressure. Stammering, she replied, I was just passing by. She shouted an apology loudly. Then she turned and ran at full speed. Disappearing at the end of the corridor, Martha chased after her. Reaching out to try and stop her, my lady Eric stood where he was. His purple eyes watched the retreating figure. The breeze stirred his short black hair. Only the rustling of leaves remained around him. The butler stood behind Eric. He bowed and asked, Lord Eric, should the meal be sent to the study as usual today? Eric turned his face to the side. Short black hair covered his eyes. There is no need for that. He raised his hand to cover half of his face. His fingertips pressed against his forehead. I am going to have lunch with Alicia today. The maids carried trays. Their skirts swept across the dining room floor as they moved. The silver cutlery made a soft clinking sound. Alicia sat at one end of the long table. Her long pink hair hung down. It concealed her gloomy expression. Why? Why did it turn out like this? One person sat at each end of the long table. Eric and Alicia sat facing each other. Only the sound of breathing echoed in the empty dining room. He used to always avoid me with work as an excuse. We never even shared a meal together. Why does it have to be today of all days? A maid walked in carrying a tray. She placed the food on the table. Her cold eyes stared at Alicia. Alicia froze in place. Her green pupils contracted slightly. Thank you, the butler said, stepping forward. Madam, if you have any needs, please do not hesitate to ask. Alicia let out a soft sigh. All right, tiny beads of sweat broke out on her forehead. Unease showed in her eyes. The air nearly solidified. This sense of pressure was suffocating. The maids stood by the wall. They lowered their heads and remained silent. They were experts at reading the room. Eric put down his cutlery. His purple pupils gazed at the person opposite him. Is it not to your taste? I can have the chef redo it. Alicia shook her head violently. Her long pink hair swayed with the movement. Not at all. She poked at the food and put it in. She responded in a low voice while it was in her mouth. It is delicious. She stared at the exquisite meal on the plate. These were all foods she had never seen before. This is the first time. Being treated as the true Grand Duchess, no matter how they neglected me in the past. Now that I am eating at the same table as the noble Grand Duke, those people will do their best to curry favor, selling my body for the sake of survival. In the end, I have actually ended up on the same path as my mother. Alicia stared down at her plate. Shadows shrouded the upper half of her face. Eric stopped his movements. His purple pupils gazed at the person opposite him. What is wrong? Alicia avoided his gaze. Her voice was tiny. I don't have much of an appetite. She buried her head deep. Her long hair covered her face. I'm sorry. Eric watched her in silence. He lowered his eyelids. His black hair covered his purple pupils. He asked in a low voice, Did I hurt you yesterday? The butler's hand trembled. Liquid from the teapot splashed over the rim of the cup. The trays in the maid's hands almost slipped. Everyone froze where they stood. No one dared to make a sound. The dining room fell into a dead silence. Only the sunlight outside the window flowed quietly. Alicia's body stiffened. Her green pupils dilated instantly. Her mind went blank. Alicia froze in her seat. Her long pink hair fell across her chest. What is he saying? Married for 3 years. Aside from formal banquets, we have never had lunch together. The maids are already gossiping in private. Alicia stared down at her hands. Her fingertips tightly gripped her skirt. To bring up such a topic in front of everyone? Did he do it on purpose? Does he want to humiliate me in front of everyone? Eric leaned closer to Alicia. His short black hair brushed past her cheek near her ear. We are a real couple now. Alicia jerked her shoulders back. She covered her burning cheeks with her hands. Someone please save me. Eric suddenly remembered something. His purple pupils scanned the He issued a short command. Everyone, dismiss. The servants lowered their heads and left quickly. Their skirts crossed paths at the doorway. The door closed behind them. The dining room fell into a dead silence. Eric gazed at Alicia. Now it is just the two of us. Eric gazed at Alicia. Now it is just the two of us. Alicia remained in her seat. Her hands were tightly clasped together. It is too late. Eric looked down at the table. His hands were folded in front of him. Regarding what happened yesterday, I am truly sorry. He lowered his eyes. His messy black hair obscured his expression. Everything happened so suddenly. I failed to control myself. He looked up. He asked in a low voice, Are you hurt? Alicia shook her head repeatedly. Her long pink hair swayed with the motion. I am fine, she said, lowering her gaze. Her fingers unconsciously fiddled with her hair. That was the incense burner my mother gave me. I accidentally broke it. My mother is worried that I haven't been able to get pregnant. Eric was silent for a moment. His purple eyes flickered slightly. Do you want a child? Alicia stood up abruptly. Her hands braced against the tabletop. Absolutely not. So that was just an accident. Let's just act as if nothing ever happened. She turned and ran toward the door. That is all I wanted to say. Eric called out loudly. Wait, Alicia. He reached out and grabbed Alicia's wrist. With a sudden surge of strength, he pulled her back into his arms. His voice was muffled. I hope you won't hate me because of this. Alicia froze in place. Her green eyes stared upward. She answered in a small voice. All right. Eric released his grip. The corners of his mouth turned up slightly. Thank you. Alicia lifted her skirt. She turned and walked out the door. If you'll excuse me. Eric stood where he was. He watched as the door was slammed shut. It let out a heavy, dull thud. Left alone in the empty room, he raised both hands. He covered his face tightly. His rapid breathing escaped through the gaps between his fingers. He tried to hide the flush on his face. The maids hid behind the drying sheets. They spoke in hushed tones. The Grand Duke actually touched her just now. The red-haired maid suddenly ripped the white cloth off the clothesline. If you have something to say it to my face. Stop whispering behind people's backs. The two maids shrugged their shoulders. They exchanged a glance. You saw how the madam looked just now, didn't you? It's better to be more restrained from now on. One of them lowered her voice. Her gaze fell on the red-haired maid's back. Especially you. Serena, you were the one who bullied her the most before. Serena stopped what she was doing. Her red eyes turned cold. She reached out and grabbed the scissors. Her fingertips hooked into the metal rings. I will never back down. The bedsheet was snipped to pieces. The two maids behind her held their breath in shock. Serena gritted her teeth. I will make everything crystal clear. I will prove to everyone. That woman is nothing more than a piece of useless trash. Alicia sat by the window. She was combing her hair. Her fingers tightly gripped her collar. She looked down and stared. The red mark on her chest. The color was even deeper than yesterday. Luckily, Martha is sick. Otherwise, there would be no way to hide it. Martha carried a tray to the bedside. She leaned over to check Alicia's neck. My lady, were you bitten by a bug? Alicia grabbed a powder puff and pressed it against her skin. I must hide it before he gets close. This absolutely cannot be discovered. The door swung open abruptly. Alicia turned her head. Martha, please wait a moment. He froze in place. Her green pupils trembled slightly. Did she enter without even knocking? Serena, why are you here? Serena stood by the door. Her hands were folded in front of her. Is there a problem with me being here? Alicia gripped the corner of the quilt tightly. Her voice was trembling a bit. I didn't mean it that way. Where did Martha go? Serena walked toward the bed. She reached out to smooth the messy sheets. I am your exclusive maid. Madam Martha was only a temporary replacement while I was away. Now that I am back, it is only natural for me to return to my post. Alicia lowered her eyelids. This maid was always so unscrupulous, arranging a replacement without permission, not saying a word, and now, returning as if nothing had happened. There must be a limit to such arrogance. Most of the past bullying came from her hands. Recalling those days of being deliberately tormented, she knew I wouldn't resist. That's why she became more and more aggressive. It wasn't that I hadn't thought about asking Eric for help. It was just that some things simply couldn't be said. My mother's voice echoed in my ears. So what? What do you want me to do? Alicia was trembling. I understand. Serena reached out and touched her cheek. A cold light gleamed in her red eyes. She walked behind Alicia. She reached out and grabbed the edge of the dress. She began to arrange the clothes. She pulled the laces with force. Her fingertips pressed against Alicia's back. Her movements were rough. The fabric made a straining sound. Alicia lowered her head and endured it. Her long pink hair fell against the side of her face. Her hands were clenched tightly together. A curve formed at the corner of Serena's mouth. She looked down with a cold gaze. She suddenly applied force. Her fist pressed against Alicia's lower back. She tightened the corset to the extreme. Alicia's body leaned forward. She let out a muffled, suffocating groan. She collapsed onto the floor. What are you doing? Serena gave a cold snort. I am merely helping you put on your corset. In the Orion Empire, wearing a corset is basic etiquette for a lady. If you walk out hunched over like that, you will only lose the Grand Duke's face. She took a step closer. Perhaps you have nothing left to lose. But please, do not tarnish the Grand Duke's reputation further. You can't even speak the language here fluently. You can't even manage to be a pretty ornament. Don't you feel any shame at all? Whispers could be heard. How truly shameless. She can't even fit into this size. Even a village woman's figure is sturdier than yours. The Grand Duke will become the laughingstock of the capital. I really don't know why you are still staying here. These words pierced Alicia's heart like needles. Not being able to fit into the corset became a source of pain. She even began to suffer from anorexia. Wait, figure, appearance, value? She was completely held hostage by these numbers. Even eating felt like a crime. Why can't I lose weight? Until one day, Martha picked up that brown corset. My goodness, is this a corset? Alicia lowered her head. I heard that if imperial women don't wear this, it is considered a disgrace to the family. Is that not the case? Martha explained. What old stories are you talking about? Extreme thinness was indeed popular in the Empire once. This torture device was born because of that. But everyone soon realized this thing harms the body. Ever since a lady fainted at a banquet, Lady Xenia, the Count's daughter, started a boycott movement. No one wears this kind of thing anymore. Where on earth did you get this item? Alicia froze. She finally understood everything completely. There was no such thing as shame. Serena used my insecurities to manipulate my mind and push me into an abyss of self. Alicia spoke slowly. Serena turned her head. What is it? Is something the matter? Alicia clenched her fists, her nails digging deep into her palms. You are fired? Serena pointed at Alicia's nose. Her red eyes contorted with rage. You dare to order me around. Who do you think you are? Alicia straightened her back. I am the legal wife of Grand Duke Lan, the mistress of this house, and more importantly, your employer. She took a step forward. You left your post without permission, and neglected your duties regarding my daily life. She pointed to the torture device on her waist, and this corset. You have no defense against these charges. Now, get out of here. Serena staggered back half a step, letting out a low growl through gritted teeth. Even so, this isn't something you can decide on your own. Since when did you have such authority? A major matter like this must go through the Grand Duke's approval. Alicia let out a cold laugh. You think I don't have the right? Very well, since that is the case. Let's go see the Grand Duke. Do you think he will take my side? Or will he praise a loyal servant like you? Serena froze in place, fine beads of sweat breaking out on her forehead. The maids were busy in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window onto the wooden table piled with utensils. Serena strode through the gallery, her leather shoes making dull thuds on the floor. She shoved the door open violently and glared fiercely at Martha. Congratulations. From now on, you are the Grand Duchess's exclusive maid. Martha was stunned, but Serena pointed at Martha. Go there right now. Martha ran toward the end of the hallway. Yes, the maids in the kitchen huddled together. What on earth happened? I thought that woman would never resist. Serena gritted her teeth. How should I know? Maybe she took some strange medicine. She swept the plates off the table with a wave of her hand. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the room. That cursed woman? Alicia suddenly lunged forward and threw her arms tightly around Martha. Martha, I missed you so much. Martha staggered back from the impact, her hands frozen in midair. I am very happy to officially become your exclusive maid. But what happened with Serena? Alicia released her embrace. That is a long story. Perhaps she was frightened by my sudden change in attitude, or perhaps she felt guilty. In any case, Serena finally yielded. Glad she backed down on the spot. If I really had to confront her in front of Eric, I might have completely frozen up from nervousness. But for some reason, this feeling is incredibly satisfying. Alicia took Martha's hand. Martha, have the maids been gossiping about me lately? Martha stood behind Alicia. I am not entirely sure, but I heard the Grand Duke's favor toward you is beyond expectation. Some are even saying they should perhaps restrain themselves a bit, but I don't really understand what that means. Alicia lowered her eyes. I see. She looked at herself in the mirror and bit her lip. Silently enduring cannot change the current situation at all. I don't care if they call me vulgar. As long as there is anything I can use, I will use it to the very end. Alicia turned her head. Martha stopped what she was doing and looked at her. Alicia said, help me change my clothes. Eric stood in the study, his short black hair veiling his eyes. He took the tray handed to him by the attendant. His fingertips brushed against the cold metal edge. The butler knocked on the heavy wooden door. Your Grace, a visitor is here to see you. Eric's tone was icy. I am very busy today. The butler hesitated for a moment. He lowered his voice. The visitor is the Duchess. Eric pushed the door open. His purple eyes looked forward. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Alicia looked up. Her green eyes flickered. I heard you worked late into the night yesterday, so I prepared some tea to refresh and relieve your fatigue. May I come in? Eric stepped aside to clear the doorway. Of course you may. The butler whispered a reminder. Your Grace, your tie is crooked. Eric hurriedly reached out to adjust his tie. The two sat facing each other. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows onto the white tea table. Eric stared at Alicia's attire. His purple eyes trembled slightly. I didn't know you wore this style as well. Alicia picked up her teacup. I just wanted a change of mood. After all, I've just been freed from the constraints of corsets and hoop skirts. She set the cup down. Her fingertips rubbed the ceramic edge. I came here today because there is something I want to report to you. Eric leaned back. What is it? Alicia looked down at the tea. I took the liberty of dismissing my former personal maid. I replaced her with a girl named Martha. I have already confirmed with Lady Gill. The personnel change itself does not violate any rules, but I am sorry for explaining it to you after the fact. Eric remained expressionless. A small matter like this? You may handle it according to your own will. Alicia leaned forward abruptly. Her green eyes quivered. Really? Eric stood up. He looked down at Alicia. You are my wife. You have the right to decide everything within this manor. There is no need to seek my permission. Alicia froze in place. She slowly lowered her head. Shadows obscured her eyes. Actually, besides this matter, I have one more request. Her mother's voice echoed in Alicia's mind. Wake up. Stop playing the tragic heroine and wasting time. You should think about how to consolidate your position as the Grand Duchess. Alicia lowered her gaze. Mother was right. To prevent a second Serena from appearing, I must win my husband's favor. I had mentally prepared myself for this. I even went to great lengths with my appearance. However, Alicia propped her hands on the table. Please change my official language. Grand Duke Eric held his teacup. His purple eyes shifted slightly. He looked at Alicia across from him. Alicia covered her cheeks with both hands. A blush showed through the gaps in her fingers. What on earth am I saying? I actually said something completely unrelated. Eric set down his teacup. It made a soft clinking sound. If that's the case, he rested his fingertips against his chin. There aren't many tutors proficient in both languages. Finding a replacement will not be easy. Alicia looked down at her knees. Her fingers twisted together tightly. I see. Sorry for making such an unreasonable request. Eric raised his eyelids. His purple eyes locked onto her. It's not entirely impossible. Alicia jerked her head up. Her green eyes widened. Really? Eric nodded slightly. Just leave it to me. Alicia picked up her teacup. She hid her face behind it. She used drinking tea as an excuse to avoid his gaze. Fortunately, he didn't ask for the reason. Madame Michelle, like the others, looked down on people from Elisa. Her so-called lessons were nothing more than self-study. I simply cannot master this language. Alicia walks toward her tutor holding a book. Her fingertips tremble slightly. Excuse me, I forgot how to pronounce this word. Madame Michelle sets her teacup down heavily. The porcelain clatters against the table. Aren't there phonetic symbols in the dictionary? If you don't even know something as simple as this, how can you call yourself a princess? Alicia clenches her fists. But looking at it from another perspective, this might be a good thing. As long as I learn the official language well from a new teacher, no one will be able to mock my pronunciation ever again. Perhaps I might even make some friends. Eric approaches from behind. He leans over and encircles Alicia in his arms. For you, Alicia takes the blue book handed to her. Thank you very much. Suddenly, she freezes, stiffening in her seat. She realizes this distance is far too close. Eric notices something is wrong. He turns his face toward her. What's wrong? Is there a problem? A flush creeps onto Alicia's cheeks. Her green eyes waver violently. The new teacher. It couldn't be you, could it? Is this what you meant by leave it to me? Eric lowers his gaze slightly. His fingertips slide across the paper. Try reading it out loud first. Alicia lifts the book. Hiding half of her face, only her eyes are visible. The sound of her heartbeat almost drowns out her breathing. She answers in a low voice. Yes. Eric leans close to her ear. Conveying your intent accurately is more important than perfect pronunciation. There is no need to be nervous. Alicia closes her eyes tightly. A blush stains her cheeks. His face is too close. She can even feel his breath. She clenches both hands. Calm down. This is a golden opportunity. You have already made up your mind, haven't you? Even if it feels shameful, this is the only way to break the status quo. I must borrow his power. If I don't want to return to a life of being trampled upon, I must win him over no matter what, regardless of the cost. This is a game of survival. Alicia stares at Eric, who is inches away. I was supposed to be the one tempting him. Why am I the one being drawn in by him instead? Alicia lowers her gaze. Her cheeks flush. I must be subtle. I must remain subtle. Eric notices her silence. He tilts his head slightly. Alicia, are you listening? Alicia places her hand on Eric's. Eric's heartbeat has spiraled completely out of control. Alicia lets out a small gasp. Alicia's fingertips touch Eric. The muscles beneath her fingers are tense. His breath falls near her ear. The sound of his heartbeat thuds against my back. Eric lowers his eyelids. His profile is hidden in the shadows. He shows no expression. Alicia turns her head to observe him. I thought the seduction was working. However, his face is a total blank. Was it just my imagination? Eric looks down toward the front. His purple eyes are as calm as still water. Perhaps he is long accustomed to such scenes, moving with ease through countless romantic affairs. He truly is a dangerous man. Alicia lowers her gaze. No wonder he is so calm and skillful. Eric looks down at her. What is it? Alicia suddenly snaps back to reality. Nothing. I was just thinking. Please continue. Eric turns the page. His gaze falls on the paper. The basic part is already finished. The pronunciation of the official language and the Elisa language differ slightly. Let's practice a bit more. Alicia responds softly. Okay. He held the book. Eric explained things even more clearly than a teacher. As long as I do well, he will praise me. Even if I make a mistake, he will patiently correct me. I originally thought he was a cold and terrifying person. It seems one cannot judge others by appearance alone. Eric reached out and handed over the teapot. Take a break. Just in time to taste the prepared tea, Alicia responded in a low voice. Okay. The red tea was poured into the cup. Eric picked up the teacup. Alicia sat to the side, observing his reaction. Don't push yourself too hard, Alicia. You are gradually closing the distance. Eric suddenly coughed violently. His body leaned forward uncontrollably. Alicia let out a scream. She reached out to support his shoulder. Are you okay? Eric covered his mouth and nose. He questioned in a low voice. What did you put in the tea? Alicia froze in place. Her pupils contracted suddenly. What? She looked at the teapot on the table. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the lid. She lifted the ceramic lid. Impossible? Eric rose suddenly. His fingers tightly gripped Alicia's hand. Arm. What exactly are you trying to do? This was certainly no accident, was it? Alicia raised her face. Her breathing became rapid under the pressure. Wait, this is a misunderstanding, she thought deeply. I admit I wanted to attract Eric's attention, but I would never go this far. Eric leaned down, closing in. His purple pupils emanated a cold chill. Why did you do this? What is your purpose? Is it just to change the tutor and the maid? Alicia lowered her eyes. For a wife to want to please her husband? Isn't that perfectly natural? She suddenly shook off Eric's hand. Eric leaned down, closing in. His fingers pressed heavily against Alicia's lower lip. In that case, you should be prepared to face the consequences. Shouldn't you? Alicia froze in place. Her green pupils trembled with shock. Alicia held the incense burner in both hands. I intended to do this from the start. Martha followed closely behind. Her eyes were locked on that incense burner. Madam, how do you plan to handle it? Is it a gift for the Grand Duke? Alicia turned her head. It's nothing, just a cheap little trinket. Pleasing a husband can indeed gain favor. But that isn't the ultimate goal. Why am I always wavering at critical moments? Perhaps what I am truly searching for is... Eric leaned down close, directly touching Alicia's neck. For the touch of his fingertips, even if it is only by chance. Alicia raised her face. Her green pupils reflected his outline, feeling the heat coming from his skin. To awaken the senses, Eric held Alicia's face in both hands, forehead against forehead. Their breaths entwined at the closest range. The moments they once shared were revived in their breath. Alicia closed her eyes. She thought it would be as calm as flowing water, but she was completely swallowed by this force. Eric suddenly exerted force. He pulled Alicia into his arms. His fingers slid into her pink hair, holding the back of her head tightly. This wasn't the expected tenderness. It was a demand bordering on destruction. Alicia's fingertips gripped his lapel tightly. Stop. I can't breathe. Eric pulled back slightly. The lapel came loose in the struggle. Alicia let out a cry. Her body was suddenly lifted up by Eric. Eric held Alicia's face. Their lips met once again. Devouring all broken sounds, Alicia tightly closed her eyes. Enduring a plunder that bordered on brutality, this feeling was entirely different. He was a different person compared to his previous gentleness. She lifted her flushed face. Her green eyes grew unfocused in a daze. Why does he look so angry? Eric gripped Alicia's hand. Why are you resisting? Isn't this what you have always wanted? Alicia froze. I was only doing what Mother told me to do. I haven't done anything wrong. Two maids stopped at the end of the corridor. They bowed their heads to avoid the leather shoes passing in front of them. The butler stepped across the red carpet. He walked toward the tightly closed door. He stood outside the door. He looked down at the pocket watch in his hand. The metal case flipped between his fingertips. The time has come. He raised his right hand. His knuckles rapped heavily against the wooden door panel. It made a dull sound. Lord Grand Duke, is now a convenient time? Eric stopped his movements. He turned his head toward the door. Alicia's eyes widened. Her green pupils contracted in a tremor. Someone is here. You should at least respond. The butler stood outside the door. He looked down at the pocket watch in his hand. Is the Duchess inside? Has something happened? Is the Grand Duke still inside? Alicia responded to the inquiry from outside the door. Yes. I will wake him. Please wait. Eric leaned close to her ear. His voice was deep and cold. If it were another man outside the door, Would you welcome him like this too? Alicia suddenly jerked her head up. She let out a sharp, shrill scream. The butler looked at the door with a suspicious and startled expression. Duchess. Eric spoke to respond to him. It is fine. Please tell Moreto that I will be over immediately. Alicia suddenly turned her head to question him. What on earth are you thinking? Eric? Don't get it twisted. You were the one who drugged me first. He leaned down, lowering his center of gravity. This means that deep down, you desired all of this to happen. I have been restraining myself this whole time. He pinched Alicia's chin. His fingertips left red marks on her skin. Right at this very moment, my body is still screaming to pin you down, to tear your clothes apart, to possess you just like that night. I desire you so much and going crazy. Yet you keep coming closer to me, tempting me, completely ignoring how much I have paid to restrain myself. Alicia, I am not the saint you imagine me to be, so stop provoking me so excessively. Alicia shoved him away. She turned and walked toward the door. I don't even remember how I escaped from him. My heart was occupied by fear and confusion. Everything has spiraled completely out of control. Alicia ran through the long corridor holding her skirt. Only Eric's pained expression remained in her mind. That afternoon, Eric led the army away from the territory. His return date was uncertain. Alicia stood by the window. She watched the departing convoy of horses, disappearing beyond the iron gates. I should have been used to these partings long ago. This is just how life is. The butler, Alvin, remained in the territory. As the Grand Duke's confidant, he was enough to intimidate those maids with ulterior motives, making them afraid to act rashly. Alvin bowed slightly in greeting. Duchess, the Grand Duke asked me to give this to you. Alicia turned around. She stared at the black wooden box Alvin held out. It was the Grand Duke's entrustment before his departure. Alicia opened the lid. A silver key lay upon the red velvet. The metal edges reflected a cold light. This was the transfer of power. It was also a heavy shackle. It has been a full 2 months since Eric and I parted. This long absence is not unusual. It would be rare for him to return early. Once again, I am left alone in the mansion. Alicia sat before the desk. The only difference is, now I am no longer idle. Martha approached, carrying a tray. She looked at the stacks of accounts on the desk. Are you working again? You barely slept at all last night. Your health will collapse if you keep this up. Alicia put down her quill. She looked up and smiled. I'm fine. This is a very important task. I must handle it properly myself. Eric handed over the keys. This is not just a symbol of being the mistress of the house. It represents the authority to manage 20 properties. After I learned the official language here, he finally entrusted me with this responsibility. That stern look on his face, it must have been from overexertion. I still feel unworthy of the title of Grand Duchess. Even now, I'm still not sure if I belong here. When I was exiled to live with my cousin, I learned the basics of business. I am not entirely without experience. I must prove myself. I cannot betray this trust. Martha placed a white porcelain teacup on the desk. She gently reminded her, Please, have some tea first. Alicia nodded. Thank you. Alicia caught a hint of a strange scent. Her pupils contracted suddenly. Martha, you didn't add anything strange to this, did you? Martha tilted her head with a smile. Are you referring to your favorite fragrance? Or your favorite blending ratio? To help you feel calm, I specifically add it every time. Alicia braced her hands on the desk. Her body stiffened in shock. There's no need to add it anymore. It turns out I've been bringing this upon myself all along. A crisp knock sounded on the door. A maid pushed the door open. Pardon me, madam? A tailor followed beside her. The Grand Duke ordered me to take your measurements. So, I've brought a tailor. Alicia looked at the fabrics filling the room. She instinctively took a step back. I think I already have enough clothes. The tailor rushed in front of Alicia. What are you saying? Every season requires different attire, from daily wear to formal gowns. And even the latest styles. He pulled out a measuring tape. He wrapped it around Alicia's waist. While you are still young, you should enjoy fashion to the fullest. When you wear the right clothes, your mood will brighten as well. Alicia allowed the maid to unfasten her old clothes. She changed into a thin undergarment. I used to only wear ready-made clothes. Why do I suddenly need them custom-made? The maid stopped her work. She looked into Alicia's eyes. You actually didn't know. Because you don't like social events, madam? For the past 3 years, the Grand Duke has always gone to pick out clothes for you himself. The tailor stopped his pen. A while ago, the Grand Duke suddenly said the sizes were a bit off. Eric stood in the middle of the tailor shop. His hands were gesturing in front of his chest. A blush spread across the scene. The tailor waved the measuring tape in his hand. I've never seen a husband so devoted to his wife. You two must have a wonderful relationship. Alicia lowered her head. She avoided the tailor's gaze. I don't feel like we have an intimate relationship. In the eyes of others, this relationship might not seem so bad, but in reality, we are more like strangers living under the same roof. Even so, there were moments when we truly shared our hearts. Perhaps that argument simply returned us to our original state. Alicia lay on the wide bed. I lay curled up on my side in the moonlight. The only difference is my feelings for him. Alicia curled up in the middle of the large bed. Her fingertips tightly gripped the silk sheets. Ever since parting ways with Eric, every night has become exceptionally difficult to endure. A strange sensation spread through my body. My body no longer seems to be under my control. Once you know the taste of longing, loneliness becomes an unbearable torture. Once I wake up startled from a dream, I can never fall back asleep. I can only keep my eyes open in the darkness, waiting for the break of dawn. Sunlight pierced through the curtains. Alicia sat up abruptly. Her hands clutched the sheets as she exhaled. Her breathing was rapid as she sat alone on the edge of the bed. What kind of dream was that just now? Alicia sat at the desk. She propped her forehead up with one hand. Her hair fell over the stacks of books. I really am a sinful woman. Martha stopped watering the flowers. She turned to look at Alicia. Did you say something just now? Alicia avoided Martha's gaze. It is nothing. Please forget it. Martha walked in carrying a tray. Please get some proper rest. Otherwise, the Grand Duke will blame me. Alicia leaned back against the chair. You are right. I am sorry, she said, stopping her pen. Martha, have you heard any news about Lord Eric returning to the city? Martha showed a look of surprise. Did the Grand Duke not inform you? The butler mentioned that the border has stabilized. This time it is just a routine inspection. He should be back very soon. Alicia raised her head sharply. Is that true? Martha thought while holding the tray. It depends on the specific situation. During the spring tour, we need to provide security. For a deal in Cavalia, the Lanthimos territory is at the center of these places. He could have come back once every 3 months. However, over the past 3 years, the Grand Duke never returned to the manor after his tours ended. It is said he is currently resting at a camp 10 kilometers away, so he might not come back this time either. Alicia lowered her eyes. Her fingertips pressed weakly against the tabletop. So that is how it was. That is the reason he barely came home during these 3 years. Martha waved her hands in a panic. Of course, this has nothing to do with you, madam. There must be another reason. Alicia fell into deep thought. I always thought he was not at home, because the emperor placed high expectations on him. I was so deeply mired in this marriage that I never even harbored a doubt. He would always turn and leave in silence. It turns out he was just avoiding me. Alicia suddenly clutched her head. I actually never noticed it until now. How incredibly foolish. Martha shrank her shoulders in fright. The tray in her hands made a sharp clattering sound. Alicia took a deep breath. She forced herself to calm her mind. It is fine. Now I just need to fulfill my duties as the Duchess. She opened the heavy ledger. Her gaze fell upon one of the entries. Regarding the trade of medicinal herbs, Martha leaned in to take a look. That was proposed by Viscount Owen at a ball a few months ago to the Grand Duke, but for some reason, this plan seems to have been shelved. Why was it shelved? Alicia closed the ledger. She looked up at Martha. Go investigate this matter immediately. Arrange a meeting with the Viscount for tomorrow. She propped her forehead with one hand. Even if I don't want to care, Eric's face keeps appearing in my mind. Am I just feeling frustrated? However, not long after, her train of thought was completely cut off. Alicia kept her head lowered. Her hands were folded in front of her. Emitting a somber atmosphere, Pilden took off his bowler hat. He pressed it against his chest. Viscount Owen bowed slightly. Good day, Grand Duchess. Alicia sat on the bench. They were a full hour late, yet they didn't even offer a single apology. Viscount Owen sat down with his legs crossed. He leaned back against the sofa. Well then, shall we begin discussing official business? He spread out the documents in his hand. He looked directly at Alicia opposite him. I believe you have already reviewed these materials. Alicia picked up the papers. Her fingertips traced the dense handwriting. This is a proposal regarding the export of medicinal herbs. Correct. Viscount Owen leaned forward. His fingers tapped lightly on his knee. Setting aside those trivial details, I first want to discuss the clause regarding the conversion of land use. Changing wheat fields into medicinal herb plantations, Alicia gripped the documents in her hand tightly. Converting 1/3 of the arable land to herbs, the food supply of the territory will decrease significantly. The herb yield in the first year will also only be half. How do you intend to guarantee the commoners' rations? Pilden let out a dull laugh. You need not worry about that. We have already consulted with the Principality of Pem. We have reached an agreement to import wheat. Alicia turned her head. If the territory's self-cultivated land decreases, the people's livelihood will be subject to others. What if there is friction with the Principality of Pem in the future? What if they cut off the food supply? Viscount Owen suddenly waved his hand. He swept the papers off the table. Madam, allow me to speak plainly. This plan is the result of research by top experts. He looked down at Alicia. His eyes were full of disdain. What could a woman like you, who only engages in idle talk at home, possibly understand? What could you possibly know? Alicia looked directly at him. I am merely thinking about this proposal from the perspective of the commoners. It is far too poorly considered. Viscount Owen raised an eyebrow. The plague is spreading across all nations. Exporting medicinal herbs is a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity. This is also of great benefit to the people. Or is it that you do not wish to see the commoners earn money? Alicia clenched her hands. She remained silent. Pilden smiled and tried to mediate. Now, the Grand Duchess has only just taken over the family business. After all, it's only natural that she doesn't understand some things. The commercial value of herbs is far beyond that of ordinary food. The farmers will be very happy to make the switch. As for the food crisis, I think you are overthinking it. Our relationship with the Principality of Pem is stable. I often drink with their ministers. Those people are trustworthy and kind. Unlike those Elisa people who love to betray others. Alicia looked down, staring at the ground. Elisa, that is my homeland. Pilden leaned against the back of his chair. This project is led by Viscount Owen's eldest son. He is young, but extremely talented. I have high hopes for him. Viscount Owen let out a burst of laughter. Indeed, he is much more outstanding than I was in my youth. Pilden stood up. He looked down at Alicia on the sofa. I believe you now understand the benefits of this plan. Since that is the case, please sign the document. Alicia looked up. Her lips trembled slightly. But Pilden suddenly pressed closer. His large silhouette completely shrouded Alicia. It's all right. Just leave everything to us. Alicia froze in place. She gripped the stack of documents tightly in her hand. The figures around her pressed down like high walls. You're thinking too much, Alicia. You just need to be obedient. You just need to comply. A pen was handed to her. Alicia reached out and took it. Her fingertips touched the cold barrel of the pen. She lowered her eyes. The tip of the pen pressed against the paper, making a slight scratching sound. Viscount Owen picked up his teacup. He exchanged looks with Pilden beside him. The corners of their mouths curled into smiles. The pen tip came to a sudden halt on the paper. Alicia's hand holding the pen began to tremble. I can't do it. She raised her head. She looked directly at the two men in front of her. I cannot sign this document. The teacup in Viscount Owen's hand overturned. What did you say? He stood up abruptly. He pointed at Alicia and roared loudly. After explaining so much, do you still not understand? Alicia gripped the hem of her skirt tightly with both hands. This is not within my authority to decide on my own. She raised her head. Her gaze locked onto Viscount Owen's face. Until the Grand Duke returns, I will not agree to any proposal. The door was slammed shut heavily. It let out a violent vibration. Viscount Owen strode through the hallway. He swung his arms to vent his anger. How dare she be so insolent? To be played like a puppet by such an ignorant woman? It is an utter humiliation, Pilden roared. Just what kind of means did she use? To make the Grand Duke follow her every word? Martha pushed the door open and entered the silent room. Madam. Alicia sat alone in the large sofa. Her back was held perfectly straight. She responded softly. I'm fine, she said, looking at the light coming through the window. If he were here, at least I could consult with him. Alicia lowered her gaze. Her fingertips lightly touched her flushed cheek. Lord Eric. Once he returns, there will surely be a way. A few days later, Alvin suddenly pushed open the main doors. He stumbled into the hall. Madam, something terrible has happened. The farm village is on fire. The tray in Martha's hands shook violently. She covered her mouth. She let out a gasp of alarm. Alvin reported that the rain had been continuous for days. It's impossible for the fire to have started naturally. This was no natural disaster, Alicia speculated. Could it be Viscount Owen? Is he retaliating because I refused to sign the contract? Alvin walked hurriedly down the corridor. I never thought he would go to such lengths. I heard he is in massive debt due to gambling. His whole family is trying to use the herb trade to pay it off. By burning the crops, he can sacrifice the interests of the commoners. To force you into an agreement, Alicia gazed into the distance. His goal goes beyond that. Trouble occurred as soon as Eric handed over management power. He wants to destroy my credibility and use that to expand his own influence. Alicia stood at the edge of the high platform. She looked down at the gathered subjects below. Alvin spoke up. The residents of the Lanthimos territory are deep in the aftermath of the fire. Compensation must be given according to custom. He leaned closer to Alicia's ear. Viscount Owen has a deep friendship with the family. Do not make reckless statements based on speculation. Alicia looked toward the victims. I am deeply sorry that such a thing has happened, but I will never abandon a single person. A young man waved his arms. We don't need sympathy. What we want now is an explanation. He gestured toward the back. Bring her here. An old woman walked in. Her head was covered in white bandages. The seeping blood stained the fabric red. The man said, This is my mother. Alicia held her breath. She pressed her right hand tightly over her lips. Her pupils were trembling. The young man lowered his head and narrated. It was late at night. Everyone was fast asleep. We were jolted awake by the screams of the livestock. Flames were soaring outside the window. The entire farm was caught in a sea of fire. Mother rushed into the fire to save the crops. The flames instantly swallowed her up. The young man gritted his teeth. He was already in this state when we found him. Although his life was saved, the pain will stay with him for the rest of his life. Grand Duchess, what exactly is the truth behind this fire? We will never accept such an ambiguous and unjust outcome. Alicia lowered her head in silence, shadows casting over her face. Her right hand tightly gripped her skirt, her knuckles turning white from the force. She turned her head and ordered Ivan, who was behind her, to prepare the carriage. Ivan's face showed shock. Are we leaving right now? Alicia's gaze was firm. That's right. I'm going to see Eric, Lanthe. Eric sat by the window, his fingertips toying with a pocket watch. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling his shoulders. The blonde-haired man said, "The peace negotiations are over. Do you plan on going home?" Alicia's face appeared in Eric's mind. She probably doesn't want to see me. The blonde-haired man leaned toward the mirror. Did you have another fight? Who would have thought that the invincible Grand Duke would turn into a man who fears his wife after marriage? I advised you not to get married back then. Do you regret it now? Eric remained expressionless. Someone who has never been in love wouldn't understand. The blonde-haired man jumped in frustration. In that case, I'll visit your manor another day. To ask for the secret to a happy marriage, Eric stood up and walked toward the gallery. I still have to inspect the territory. You also have duties to attend to. The blonde-haired man followed closely behind. Leave those things to the ministers. I hate dealing with official documents the most. Or, are you afraid of me seeing your real domestic life? Guards crossed their spears to block the entrance. Miss, this is a restricted area. Alicia, wrapped in a dark cloak, pleaded with an anxious expression. I'm sorry, I have urgent business. Please let me in. The blonde-haired man stopped walking. Is that a friend of yours? Eric's gaze pierced through the crowd and landed on Alicia. What are you doing here? Urgency flickered in Alicia's eyes. She suddenly broke through the barrier and ran toward the figure in front of her. Lord Eric. Eric reached out to catch her. Steadying her trembling body, the blonde-haired man stood behind them with his mouth wide open. Letting out a cry of surprise, Alicia looked up, her eyes full of tears. Please help me. Eric stood before the bookshelf. Are you saying Viscount Owen started the fire? Do you have evidence? Alicia sat in the armchair. Although I have no evidence, the timing is far too coincidental. Eric crossed his arms. That is nothing more than your speculation. I cannot convict the Viscount, based solely on your words. You are being too impulsive. He looked down at her. Did you come here alone? Where are your attendants? Alicia stared down at her teacup. I was in such a hurry that I only brought a few guards. Eric's gaze sharpened. You will stay here tonight. Tomorrow morning I will arrange a carriage to take you back. Alicia gripped her teacup tightly. What about the matter of the fire? Eric turned his back to her. I will handle it. Alicia watched his departing figure, then hung her head. Sitting alone in front of the bookshelf, Eric walked out of the room, with the blonde-haired man following behind. That's quite terrifying. That girl was merely doing her duty. Is that not so? Eric stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and asked back. Is terrible a word used to describe me? The blonde man leaned against the wall. Is it not? The castle stood tall under the sunlight. Alicia moved forward, surrounded by guards. Her cloak brushed across the stone floor. In the end, all I can do is deliver a message. He followed in Eric's footsteps and left. The guards were confused. Grand Duchess. Where are you going? Alicia stopped walking. I am sorry. I just wanted to say goodbye to Lord Eric. He stood under the tree. He watched Eric, who was not far away. The blonde man leaned close to Alicia's ear. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. If no one stops him, my husband will coldly shield that suspect. Is that what you were thinking? Alicia took a sharp step back, increasing the distance between them. Who are you? The blonde man placed a hand on his chest and bowed. I am Eric's aide. You can just call me Joseph. It is a pleasure to meet you, Grand Duchess. Alicia looked down to avoid his gaze. I do not doubt him. He is just worried about those villagers. If Lord Eric could take action... Joseph narrowed his eyes. If you were Viscount Owen, in this situation, what would you do first? Alicia lightly rested her hand on her chin. Try to destroy the evidence, like killing the arsonist. Joseph snapped his fingers. Exactly. There are usually two ways. Kill them to silence them, or send them out of the country. If it were me, I would choose the former. But the Viscount only dismissed the servants because of debt. The arsonist should still be alive. Last night, Eric ordered the main roads to be blockaded. If your guess is correct, that person must still be within the territory. After hearing all this, do you still think Lord Eric is indifferent? Alicia looked at Eric's back from a distance. Why didn't he tell me anything? Joseph said. This is likely the lineage of the Lanthimos family. I have known him for a long time. There was a time I thought he had no human emotions. Joseph lowered his eyes. Are you going to get married? The ministers hope we will choose a princess from the royal family. As a marriage alliance, but someone of your noble status is not even on the candidate list. I do not think you need to accept it. Eric's voice was calm. What if I say this is what I want? Joseph pulled back from his thoughts. He pressed his finger against his chin. He stepped forward, closing in on Alicia. Shall we test that theory? He slowly reached out his hand. A long sword tore through the air. It brushed past Joseph's ear. It slammed firmly into the tree trunk behind him. Joseph turned his head in shock. Cold sweat slid down his cheek. Eric walked in, his military boots clicking. Shadows shrouded his entire body. You seem quite idle. Joseph, since that is the case, how about a sparring session? Joseph spoke up hurriedly. Wait, I can explain. Eric's gaze was icy. I do not want to hear your excuses. Pick up your sword. Joseph pulled the longsword out from the tree. It seems he is truly enraged this time. Still, a fight might not be bad. He licked his lips. Since he was the one who initiated it, the ministers will have nothing to say. It has been a long time since I've seen blood. Alicia suddenly rushed between the two men. She spread her arms to block the sword's edge. Stop. Eric abruptly withdrew his sword. He looked down at Alicia. What are you doing? Why haven't you gone home yet? Alicia lifts her face. I just want to talk to you. Lord Eric, please. Joseph stands in the distance, watching Eric being dragged away by Alicia. He is, after all, a husband who fears his wife. Alicia stops by the stone wall. I'm sorry for causing so much trouble, but I cannot simply go back like this. I promised the villagers that I would give them an explanation. Doing nothing would make it impossible for me to eat or sleep in peace. Eric turns his head. What do you think you can do? Alicia clenches her fists. I don't know, but I can learn. I am not afraid of any difficulties. So please, let me help. I know this is selfish, but please, don't drive me away. Eric looks down at her. I am not trying to drive you away. Alicia observes his expression. But you are angry, right? Eric says. Because you stood on his side? Alicia freezes in place, doubting whether she heard his words correctly. I'm sorry, Eric purses his lips. You seemed to get along very well with him, and you even tried to protect him. He looks directly into Alicia's eyes. I am your husband. Do not stand by his side. Alicia stands frozen on the spot. So that is what he was thinking. I didn't actually want to protect that man. I just wanted to get Eric's attention. Besides, does that kind of thing really matter right now? Eric turns his back, radiating a cold aura. If you insist on staying, then stay. But you are not allowed near any dangerous places. If something like this happens again, just give that guy a punch. Alicia nods repeatedly. I promise I won't go running around anymore. Lord Eric. She clutches Eric's clothes. If I break my promise, I am willing to accept any punishment. And the next time you have a dispute with someone else, I will stand on your side. Eric gazes at her face. Such a promise feels like a dream. He extends his pinky finger, hooking it with Alicia's fingertip. Pinky swear Alicia stares at their intertwined fingers. This man is actually so easy to handle. Eric notices her gaze. What is it? Alicia waves her hands in a panic. Nothing. It's really nothing. She covers her lips. Her heart is thumping violently in her chest. This is terrible. For a moment just now, I actually thought he was a bit cute. Alicia follows behind Eric, walking through the sun-drenched courtyard. Regarding that fire, how do you plan to handle it? Eric stops his pace. Well, wait for them to reveal their hand. We cannot act too hastily. Alicia lowers her gaze. Falling into silence, Eric pushes open a wooden door. You will stay in this room for the time being. It isn't as comfortable as the ducal manor, and there are fewer servants. You must be prepared for that. Alicia walks into the room, looking around at the simple furnishings. All right, Eric turns around. Then, I'll see you later. Alicia calls out to stop him. Please wait a moment. Eric stops in his tracks. Turning sideways to look back, Alicia clasps her hands over her chest. Lifting her face, if we stay together, would there be anything inappropriate? Alicia covers her burning cheeks. I actually said it out loud. The loneliness of being left behind, the mountain of work, and everything that happened that night, there are simply too many things I want to ask. I want to stay with you, for as long as possible. Alicia bit her fingertips. That sentence just now sounded almost like a marriage proposal. Perhaps I don't need to take those words back at all. Eric leaned down, approaching Alicia's face. Say it again? I didn't hear clearly just now. Alicia was pressed against the wall. Her back was tight against the cold stone bricks. Eric said, You should understand what those words mean. Haven't you learned your lesson from last time? He reached out and held the back of Alicia's neck. His thumb rubbed against her skin. If you want to regret it now, this is your last chance. Eric let go of his hand. He straightened his body. It seems I misheard. He turned and walked away. Rest for today. Elysia. She collapsed onto the ground. Her hands covered her burning cheeks. She breathed rapidly. Just now, I almost completely gave myself to him. The carriage wheels rolled over the gravel road. They came to a stop amidst the desolate ruins. The porters carried the timber on their shoulders, shouting loudly, "Miss Alicia has arrived. The Grand Duke and his party have also arrived." The guard reached out to hold the carriage door. "Please watch your step." Eric pressed down on the guard's shoulder. "I'll handle it." The guard trembled. "Okay." An old woman stopped her work. "Why is the Grand Duchess here?" Alicia asked. "Why have you all come?" "I thought you were still receiving treatment in the territory," the old woman said. "We appreciate the sentiment, but we are even more worried. The village wants to rebuild as soon as possible. To return to our former lives." Eric surveyed the surroundings. "Even if you rebuild, it might be burned down again. You have no money. To start over again and again. Moreover, destroying the scene makes it harder to find traces of the arsonist." Alicia froze in place. Her eyes widened. A villager suddenly pushed Alicia away. "What's with that tone of voice? We are the victims here. You nobles just treat us as a source of tax revenue, don't you?" Eric lowered his gaze. "What did you just say?" Alicia suddenly lunged toward Eric. She reached out to cover his mouth. "Don't say any more. You must never say those mean words again." She lowered her eyes. "Everyone, regarding what happened in the territory, I am deeply sorry. No words can soothe your pain." She walked toward the villagers. "But our desire to solve the case and rebuild the village is the same as yours. The priority is to reduce casualties and catch the real culprit. Arguing cannot improve the current situation. Please cooperate with the investigation to find the truth." Alicia gripped the front of her clothes. "As your lord, and as the protector entrusted with managing the taxes, the Lanthimos family promises that we will definitely find the mastermind behind the arson." The wind blew through the treetops. Leaves swirled in the air. Viscount Owen suddenly slammed his hand on the desk. "The Grand Duke is back. Shouldn't he be busy with government affairs and leave all the territory's matters to his wife?" Purdon stood before the desk. "I don't know. That's why I said we should avoid such extreme measures. Marcus and his men are trapped near the village. The army has also intervened. Everything is under the Grand Duke's command now." Viscount Owen closed his eyes. He pressed his fingertips firmly against his temples. "If the truth is revealed, it will be the end for both of us. We have no other choice." Eric tilted his head. "Did I really say something wrong?" Alicia clenched her fists. Her temple throbbed. Veins popped as she desperately wanted to shut his mouth. A rag doll lay in the ashes. Its skirt was covered in mud. Alicia bent down and picked it up. "This is terrible." Eric looked around. Wasn't the starting point of the fire in the farmland? "Why is the damage inside the village so severe as well?" a villager explained. "This year, the army purchased a large number of horses. The price of fodder skyrocketed. Everyone piled wheat stalks and straw inside their homes. We planned to save it until winter to sell. Who could have imagined that these things would ultimately become the best kindling?" Eric looked into the distance. "Are there any buildings with lighter damage?" The villager pointed forward. "Yes. Everyone is currently huddling in the church to rest. Other than the church, the people have nowhere else to go." Alicia held the rag doll. "Was I wrong after all? If I hadn't rejected the Viscount's proposal back then, would all of this have been avoided?" Eric looked at Alicia. "What do you think?" Alicia avoided his gaze. She looked at the wounded lying in the church. "We should prepare a safe place first. There are injured people and children everywhere in the village. At least we must provide them with warm beds. You decide on the rest." Eric looked at the ruins. "Let's relocate the entire village." Alicia turned her head sharply. "What did you say?" Eric said. "It will take a month just to clear this rubble. Lanthimos is right nearby. There is enough land there to accommodate everyone. Isn't this the best plan right now?" Alicia argued loudly. "Absolutely not. We haven't reached the point where rebuilding is impossible. Forcing them to give up their homes now is too cruel. Relocation means abandoning land passed down through generations. All memories and the sense of belonging will disappear." Eric turned his face away. "Is that more important than survival?" Alicia looked at the distant ruins. If survival were the only goal, why would they refuse treatment in the Grand Duke's territory and drag their mangled bodies back here? Alicia lowered her gaze. "It's not just the houses and bodies that are injured. People's hearts are hurt too. No matter how violent the impact, physical wounds will eventually heal. But to heal the trauma of the soul, one needs a place to belong. No matter how much pain you suffer outside, as long as you can return there, it will accept everything about you. That is home. That is the reason why they cannot abandon this place." Alicia placed her hand over her heart. Her tone was resolute. "I absolutely do not agree to forcing them to abandon their hometown. At the very least, Such a decision must have the consent of the entire village. She suddenly realized she had lost her composure. She pulled her shoulders in and stepped back. Sorry, I got too worked up. To say such things on my own accord? The villager nodded. The Duchess is right. No matter how much our hearts ache, we eventually have to make a decision. But this pain is like a needle stuck in the heart. I don't even know what it's for myself. If you ask me if I am willing to move away, my answer is no. He walked toward Alicia. He softly called her name. Miss Alicia. From now on, we entrust everything to you. He leaned close to Alicia and whispered in her ear. Also, I think the Grand Duke said those things to encourage you, because you looked very depressed just now. You have not expressed your own opinion this entire time. Those words should have cheered you up, right? The Grand Duke's concern for you might be much greater than you imagine. The villagers waved goodbye. Then they turned and left. Eric looked at Alicia. You are quite the smooth talker. Alicia suddenly reached out. She shoved Eric's shoulder. Is there really no other way to communicate? Just now, I really thought you were being serious. I was so scared that I felt cold all over. Eric turned his head. What are you talking about? I sincerely felt that was a good suggestion. Alicia froze. Shadows shrouded her face as she stood there. Her eyes widened. Do you have no heart, man? If matters are left to you to handle, they will definitely become a complete mess. From now on, you must tell me before you make any decisions. Eric showed a hint of confusion. Alicia raised her voice. Do you understand? Eric responded in a low voice. Understood, Serena muttered, hiding behind the ruins. She held a paper bag in her arms. Her gaze was locked on Alicia. That woman is actually really here. Alicia pinched the tip of the needle. A drop of blood seeped from her fingertip. Failed again. At this rate, it will be impossible to finish before dawn. Everyone has high expectations for me. Yet I can't even do a small thing like this properly. Serena pushed open the heavy wooden door. What are you doing here? Alicia turned her head abruptly. Serena stepped closer to Alicia. Alicia stood up. Why are you here? Serena gave a cold laugh. Is it so strange for me to return to my own hometown? I really should. Thank you. If you hadn't fired me, when the fire broke out, I wouldn't have been able to save those few possessions. Alicia lowered her gaze. She avoided the other's eyes. You brought that on yourself. I have nothing to say to you. Serena took a step closer. Do you really have nothing to say? You had a part in that fire, right? Alicia froze in place. Her pupils trembled violently. Serena gripped her skirt. Just as I suspected. She suddenly swung her arm. She grabbed a basket and smashed it forward. Get out, there is no place for you here. You cursed woman. A villager grabbed Serena's arm and asked loudly, what have you done to the Duchess? Serena gave a cold sneer. You've come at just the right time. She grabbed Alicia's wrist and forcibly dragged her out of the house. Come with me. The wild winds swirled the fallen leaves. Serena pushed Alicia to the ground. She faced the gathering villagers. She spread her arms and shouted, listen up, everyone. The villagers stopped their work. One after another, they crowded around. Serena pointed at Alicia on the ground. You have all been deceived. This woman is the Princess of Eliza. She is a spy sent by the enemy kingdom. That fire is also related to her. Because of her, I lost my job. Serena continued to incite the crowd. She intended to get rid of all of us from the start. How many people in this village lost loved ones in the war? And how many lost everything in the fire? You actually have the nerve to return here? Alicia sat on the muddy ground. She looked up at Serena. I have never hidden my origins. Serena interrupted her. Are you trying to say you aren't from Eliza? Or do you want to say the fire has nothing to do with you? Don't make me laugh. Is all of this not the truth? The sound of horse hooves approached from afar. A knight stopped in the curtain of rain. He looked down at the chaotic scene. What is all this noise about? Serena continued to curse. The villagers formed an impenetrable wall all around. Eric galloped swiftly on his horse. The hooves splashed through the rainwater. The horse let out a loud neigh. Serena grabbed Alicia by the collar. How much more pain are you going to bring us? You demon! Villagers pulled desperately from behind. Trying to stop this act of violence, Eric flipped off his horse. He rushed into the chaotic crowd. He pulled Alicia into his arms. Alicia leaned against Eric's chest. Her fingers gripped tightly. Gripping the front of his clothes, her body couldn't stop trembling. Rain washed over the withered branches. Birds flew across the gray sky. Villagers stood in small groups, exchanging whispers. A villager stood in front of the wardrobe. Go take a bath first. Change your clothes. We can talk about the rest later. He placed the clothes on the wooden rack. Before the water gets cold. Go on, Alicia answered softly. Okay. She stepped barefoot into the warm water. Moonlight passed through the high window, casting shadows on the floor. Alicia closed her eyes. What exactly did I do wrong? I was just trying to be a competent wife. I was just completing the tasks assigned to me. Handling the accumulated paperwork, I just wanted to be praised. Longing for recognition, Must I be punished because my motives weren't pure? I can never escape the fate carved into my flesh. Countless dark shadows reached out their arms, trying to drag Elysia into the abyss. All the effort I put in to fit in here, it was all completely meaningless. Elysia curled up in the water. Her body gradually sank. Eric burst through the door. He pulled Elysia's soaked body out of the water. What are you doing? Spit out the water quick. Elysia's face was as pale as paper. Eric held her shoulders tightly. This is bad. She can't hear my voice at all. Eric pinched Elysia's jaw. Forcing her teeth open, Elysia coughed violently. Spitting out a large amount of water, her body convulsed in Eric's arms. Eric pressed his hand against her back, feeling those weak rises and falls. Wake up. Don't lose your life over something like that. Elysia lowered her eyelids. Sorry. Eric let go of his hand. He turned his head to avoid her gaze. Put on your clothes first. He turned his back and stood in the shadows. Why didn't you tell me? Her harassment started when you were at the manor, right? Why didn't you ask me for help? Do you not trust me? Elysia looked down, startled. If I had asked for help then, would all this really not have happened? If that's really the case, please help me. Eric suddenly turned his head, his pupils contracting in the dark. The lamp on the wall swayed. Light and shadow flickered on the stone bricks. Elysia put her arms around Eric's shoulders and kissed his lips. Eric caressed Elysia's cheek. Is this what you mean by save me? Elysia closed her eyes, unable to distinguish if this was physical torment or verbal humiliation. I have long been used to enduring malice. No one allows me to die. Even if my soul is not away, what I truly fear is showing my most vulnerable and ugly self to someone. Mother looked down at Elysia. Her red pupils were cold. So what? And then, facing Eric, I am not allowed to open my mouth. What should I do if I am rejected again? Alicia's body trembled slightly. Just hold me tight. Eric lowered his head. He let out a short questioning sound. Elysia pushed him down onto the bed. Eric froze in place. His purple pupils dilated slightly. Elysia lifted her face. Her disheveled long hair fell over her shoulders. If you're not in the mood right now, then just treat me as someone else. You can kiss me, or embrace me with your fingertips, even if this is just empty and loveless pleasure. I don't need revenge, nor do I need a prince from a fairy tale. A feather drifted down through the air. Elysia reached out her hand. Her fingertips touched nothingness. Eric leaned down and held Elysia tight. He buried his face in the crook of her neck. I'm sorry. I thought that by not being by your side, your life would be easier. He tightened his arms. I never expected it to put you in an even worse situation. All of this happened right within my reach. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. Don't ever say things like that again, and don't make that face anymore. Elysia listened carefully. Those words were so clear, they stirred a strange illusion deep in my heart. Eric cupped her face. His thumb brushed against her skin. Elysia tilted her head to feel the warmth of his palm. What I long for isn't revenge, nor is it a prince from a fairy tale. I just want to be held. Eric gazed at Elysia. His purple eyes trembled slightly. Elysia closed her eyes tightly. Tears streaked down her cheeks. This is all I need. Eric leaned forward. He wrapped his arms around Elysia's shoulders. He pulled her completely into his embrace. Eric knocked on the wooden door. It made a dull echo. Elysia looked up. She looked toward the door. Eric pushed the door open and entered. He was carrying a white cup. It's me. Have you calmed down? Elysia sat in the chair. Sorry for making you worry. I lost control of my emotions just now. I crossed the line. Eric placed the cup on the table. Don't worry about that. He cleared his throat. He avoided Elysia's gaze. I've already investigated Serena. 3 years ago, her husband and child both died on the battlefield. Elysia raised her hand. She covered her forehead. Is that why she treated me that way? It all began on the first day I entered the ducal manor. Elysia stood in the middle of the entrance. The maids stood on both sides. They lowered their heads in silence. They couldn't accept a foreign mistress. Serena stood among the maids. She tore the white cloth in her hands. Elysia covered her face. That kind of hatred was entirely different. No matter how I tried to avoid it, she never stopped the humiliation. Is this my fault? Because of my father's mistakes. She lost her husband. Then I took away her position. I didn't fulfill my duties as the Grand Duchess. Yet I occupied this position as a matter of course. I only wanted to change the status quo. I never intended to hurt her. Eric reached out his hand. His fingertips lightly touched Elisa's cheek. He wiped away the bloodstain. You are more than just the Grand Duchess. If you must carry the burden of your father's sins, then, as your husband, it is only right that I share this weight with you. Elysia. She looked up sharply. Her golden eyes trembled. Lord Eric, this has nothing to do with you. Eric reached out his index finger and pressed it against her lips. He stopped her and finished words. You don't need to care about the opinions of others, and you certainly don't need to carry the burden of other people's sins. Elysia froze in place. Eric continued speaking. I cannot change your origins. But if you plan to carry this heavy burden for the rest of your life, he stood in the light and shadow, reaching out his broad palm toward Alicia, then let me carry it with you. Most importantly, you are my wife. Alicia leaned against Eric's chest and closed her eyes, her arms wrapped around his waist, holding him back tightly. Sunlight filtered through the withered branches, shining on the broken bricks and tiles. Wooden beams lay scattered across the ruins. Broken supports were thrust diagonally into the mud. Black leather boots stepped across the grass. Alicia slowly walked forward. Whispers could be heard. She's here again. If it were me, I would never step out of the house again after what happened. Alicia stopped in front of the ruins. It's not lunchtime yet, is it? It has been raining for the past few days, and the progress of the construction has fallen behind. She looked around at the crumbling walls and ruins. At this rate, you won't even finish clearing the rubble within 3 days? A laborer stood up abruptly. Are you saying we are being lazy? We work from dawn until dusk every day, working until our arms are about to break. We can't even get a decent meal. Alicia lowered her gaze. Listening silently to the commotion behind her, the laborer took a step closer. You think you can just come here and boss us around? You have no idea what it feels like to do a hard day's work? Alicia spoke slowly, and then the laborers froze in place. Looking at each other, Alicia turned around and looked directly at the crowd surrounding her. So what? You're hungry? Your arms ache. This is truly interesting. I see that every one of you looks quite healthy. Without clean housing and water, if people are exposed to this environment for too long, they will get sick sooner or later. She pointed to the dilapidated streets behind them. That will make the situation even worse for those receiving treatment. If progress continues like this before winter arrives, people will die. If there is a shortage of manpower, stop domestic chores and reduce the frequency of hunting. Alicia waved her arm. Everyone, regardless of age or gender, must do their best. The laborer's face turned red, and he roared loudly. Why should we listen to your orders? Alicia called out to the soldiers who were working. Everyone, stop what you are doing. She looked down at the laborer. If you do not follow orders, you are more than welcome to leave with the army. If you cannot stand taking orders from a lowly Eliza person, then rebuild everything on your own. Behind Alicia, groups of soldiers stood firm. She stood at the very front of the crowd, her green eyes fixed on the lazy laborers. Do as you please. Sunlight filtered through the withered branches, shining on the broken bricks and tiles. Laborers and soldiers worked together. Alicia sat to one side. It's so quiet. She lowered her eyes, using power to force others to obey. Such a thing was unimaginable in the past. Now, no one dares to say a word about my origins. A laborer carried a heavy wooden board and walked past Alicia, no longer making any complaints. Just as Eric said, there is no need to seek anyone's approval. Keeping one's distance might be a better way to win respect. Serena curled up in the corner of the utility room. Her long red hair was scattered over her knees. Sunlight fell from a narrow window high above. 2 villagers stepped forward. Miss Alicia, you look very busy. But regarding Serena's matter, I don't want to make a decision without authorization. She is currently locked in the garden shed. How should we handle this? Alicia sat on a wooden chair. She lowered her head to straighten her purple skirt. Her voice carried no emotion. What are the established rules? The villager answered truthfully. If she lays a hand on you, by law, she should receive 30 lashes and be exiled. He suddenly knelt on the ground. Please, I beg you. Serena wasn't like this before. Although she has a bit of a short temper, she has always been diligent in her work. Serena stood in the sunlight. Her hand stroked her protruding belly. She leaned against her husband's broad shoulders and greeted the neighbors with a smile. Since she lost her husband and son, everything has changed. The villager lowered his head against Alicia's knees. His body could not stop trembling. Could you please forgive her? Having been tormented for 3 whole years, to say there is no resentment at all would be a lie. Even back then, she still strictly observed the duties of a maid. Someone who has served in the manor for years should clearly know the consequences of attacking me. Not to mention erupting right in front of Lord Eric. Was it really just a momentary flash of anger? Alicia stood up. I don't plan to make a decision right now. I just want to talk to her first. Serena knelt on the cold floor. Her hands were tied behind her back with a rope. Her long red hair covered half of her face. Her teeth bit her lower lip tightly. She looked up and stared straight ahead. Alicia sat in a high position. This is the first time I've looked down at her from this angle. My former sense of inferiority vanished at this moment. I used to not even dare to look her in the eye, only lowering my head to avoid her contempt. I am not a demon, nor am I a judge, but with just one word, I can decide her life or death. This is power. A weapon inherited from my husband. Alicia lowered her eyes. Her long pink hair covered half of her face. Is this why Mother was so desperately obsessed with status? She gave an order. Untie her ropes. The villager froze in place. But Alicia's tone was firm. Do as I say. The villager reached out with trembling hands. He untied the thick rope wrapped around Serena's wrists. Serena was helped to her feet. Why are you doing this? Do you think it'll be moved to tears of gratitude if you play the saint? Alicia gazed at her. I only want to know one thing. When you publicly threw dirt on me, was that your personal resentment? Or were you following someone's orders? Serena suddenly broke free from the villager's support. I have no need to answer you. Anyway, the Grand Duke isn't here today. Perhaps right now, he is busy chasing after another crying woman. She suddenly reached out her hand. The Lanthimos family has indeed declined. Alicia spoke coldly. While you can still stop, shut your mouth immediately. Serena froze in place. Her red pupils contracted in shock. Alicia's voice was low and steady. There are guards stationed at the door. If you dare to make any noise, they will rush in within seconds. You might not survive, and that poor woman standing beside you. In order to plead for mercy for you, she risked being punished along with you. If something happens to me, she won't be able to get away unscathed either. Alicia lowered her eyelids. I don't care. What'd you think? I will let you say whatever you want. I do not care at all. She straightened her body. Her green eyes burned with fury. But I will never allow anyone to slander my husband. Watch your words. She stood up. I will ask one last time. Did you really plan all of this alone? Serena's eyes widened suddenly. Her red pupils trembled violently in the shadows. Cold sweat slid down from her temples. She was standing in the dark corridor. Two men in cloaks stood before her. Serena reprimanded them loudly. You are the one being manipulated. You are a spy for Eliza. Stop lying. I will never let you succeed. The guard stood to the side. The air froze instantly. Alicia took a step forward. A spy for Eliza? So that is what you think. Those violent and malicious words? Ordering the maids to isolate me? Was it all because of your so-called sense of justice? When the nobles of Eliza came to the manor for business, you certainly did not show this kind of attitude, right? Serena slumped to the ground. Alicia stared at her. Why did it have to be me? She pressed her hand to her chest. Her long pink hair rippled in the light and shadow. Since you cannot answer, then I will answer for you. You did not go to challenge those corrupt people in power. Instead, you chose to bully me. There is only one reason. Because I was the weakest one. I was right there within your reach. In a foreign land, unable to even tell left from right, Alicia looked down at Serena. Why did you choose to join forces with them? You clearly know the harm they caused to our homeland. I cannot understand. Would you really betray your compatriots and side with the enemy? Just to seek revenge on me? Serena suddenly raised her head. Her red pupils dilated with anger. She shouted back at Alicia. Don't talk nonsense. I never stood on their side. A strange man stood before Serena, looking down at her. Then do as I say. If you can lead us out of here, I will convey all your requests to the Viscount. What do you think? Serena gritted her teeth. She slapped the strange man across the face. Go to hell, you murderer. You arsonist. How dare you show up here? She roared loudly. Her red pupils were bloodshot and dilated. I am going to report this to the Grand Duke immediately. You fool? Walking right into a trap? The strange man kicked Serena in the stomach. What use is reporting it to the Grand Duke? Do you think he would offend the Viscount for your sake? Even if we are caught, the nobles will receive light sentences. Sooner or later, we will come back to take revenge on you and your allies. He reached out and grabbed Serena by the hair, forcing her to look up. Follow my instructions. At least the future of the village will be safe. You don't even need to think about who to choose. Is it that woman you hate? Or your hometown and the villagers? Serena sat on a wooden chair with her head bowed. Her hands were tightly interlaced. There are explosives buried on the hillside behind the village. If you cannot endure the pain and want to return to the Grand Duke's manor, someone must escort you. They will take that opportunity to escape. But if you do not go back, Serena suddenly raised her head. Her pupils contracted in shock. The wooden door was pushed open heavily. Alicia hurriedly ran out. The workers let out a cry of surprise. Lady Alicia. Alicia ran through the forest. Her long skirt swayed. Oh God, please. No one has ever saved me before. He suddenly fell to the ground. His body hit the earth heavily. In this long life, only this one time? He pushed his body up. Please, you must protect him. Lord Eric Lanthimos. A strange man pushed aside the thick bushes. His fingertips brushed against the rough leaves. He held his breath and observed the area ahead. The soles of his boots slipped on the mud. The strange man gripped the rifle with both hands. His knuckles turned white from the exertion. He moved his jaw tightly. Damn it, the bullet was fired. The horse fell straight down. A large cloud of dust rose up. The fallen soldier shouted, "I'm fine. Don't let him get away." The strange man held his rifle sideways. He retreated step by step on the grassy slope. 3 soldiers leveled their spears. They closed in from 3 directions. The strange man gripped the trigger. His knuckles trembled violently. Don't come any closer? Otherwise, ill. Eric appeared in a flash. He grabbed the man's neck from behind. His purple eyes radiated a chilling cold. The rifle slipped from the man's hands and fell. It thudded heavily onto the grass. A fine dust kicked up. Eric dropped to one knee. His right hand pinned the back of the man's head down. He buried the man's face into the mud. Don't move if you don't want to die. The soldiers rushed up the slope with their spears. My lord, are you all right? Eric picked up the rifle. He is alone. But don't let your guard down. He might have other weapons hidden. That shot just now missed. But that might not be the case next time. The strange man had a spear held against his throat. I didn't do anything. I only came here to hunt. That's all. A soldier stepped forward. Don't be stupid. For the past 3 days, soldiers have guarded every road. The strange man lifted his head. How was I supposed to know? I was just chasing a deer. Suddenly, I ended up here. You must believe me. A soldier stared at the gravel on the ground. The terrain here is indeed complex. It wouldn't be surprising if there's a path we missed. Eric walked slowly toward the man. Where did this gun come from? The strange man froze in place. I'm a hunter. Of course I have a gun. Eric looked down. Like that rifle? Most guns used by hunters are old, and they misfire easily. They're usually only used against large beasts. However, this gun is different. A bullet was fired. The strange man's pupils contracted sharply. Cold sweat slid down his cheek. His breathing stopped instantly. Eric's voice was ice cold. Ordinary people cannot get their hands on such a precision weapon. I'll ask you one last time. He pointed the muzzle directly at the strange man's forehead. Where are your accomplices? The strange man lowered his head. He curled his body into a ball on the grass. I will take you to the hideout. Please, spare my life. He suddenly looked up. The corners of his mouth twisted upward. A murderous light gleamed in his eyes. But before that, Eric sensed something was wrong. His purple eyes contracted sharply. Alicia stood at the edge of the forest. I beg you, let me pass. 2 guards crossed their arms to block the path. Until the arsonist is caught, no one is allowed to enter the forest alone. Alicia took a step forward. Eric is in danger right now. If you want, go. Then I will go by myself. The guard spread his hands. The Grand Duke would never lose to a few thugs. Besides, where did you hear this news from? A dull explosion sounded from a distance. Alicia turned around abruptly. Her golden pupils suddenly contracted. The guard also looked toward the depths of the forest in astonishment. Alicia whispered under her breath. Could this sound be? She lifted her skirt and rushed toward the thick forest. Eric, the guard shouted loudly from behind. Lady Alicia, it's dangerous over there. Please go back to the village. Alicia walked straight into the depths of the forest. She stopped abruptly. Her green pupils suddenly contracted. Her gaze locked onto the front. A huge crack appeared at the edge of the cliff. The soil collapsed like an abyss. A brown steed lay in a pool of blood. Its stiff limbs lay across the edge of the cliff. Alicia stood at the edge of the cliff. Staring at the black smoke rising from the abyss, she raised her hand to cover her nose and mouth. Her golden eyes trembled violently. The guard bent down to check the fallen horse. Is this the Grand Duke's horse? Impossible! The other guard shouted suddenly. Send people down the cliff to search immediately. Grand Duke. Shouts echoed through the valley. Eric. The guard rushed forward. He grabbed her arm. Lady Alicia, don't get any closer. The ground could collapse at any moment. Alicia struggled to shake off the restraint. Lord Eric is still down there. I once resisted. I also once fled. For a full 3 years, I closed off my heart, living with him like strangers. Not until now. Did we finally face each other? I can finally tell him. All the pain I have been carrying all along. Have I been looking forward to something? Looking forward to that glimmer of light shining through the cracks. This place, could it one day become a place I call home? Alicia made up her mind. I must find him. A metal gun barrel emerged from the bushes. The guard's eyes widened suddenly. He sensed the unusual movement in the grass. Alicia was tackled to the ground by the guard. Withered branches snapped under her. A bullet grazed the top of her head, shattering the tree trunk above. The guard helped her onto the horse's back. Run, Miss Alicia. Alicia gripped the reins. She looked down at the guard on the ground. What about you? The guard slapped the horse's haunch. He turned to look deep into the forest. Reinforcements will be here soon. I'm sorry, I cannot stay by your side. A bullet hit the mud near the horse's hooves. The guard let out a final roar. Go. Alicia tightened the reins. She charged into the dark shadows of the trees. Thunder tore through the clouds. Lightning exploded over the dense forest. Rain washed over the muddy ground. The guard pointed his sword forward. Are you crazy? You are betraying the country. The strange man raised his rifle. His finger pulled the trigger. I know exactly what I am doing. Sweat broke out on the guard's forehead. His gaze passed over the muzzle of the gun. The Grand Duke and the Grand Duchess. Please let them reunite safely. Alicia leaned over the horse's back. Her hands were tightly locked around the horse's neck. What should I do? I don't even know how to ride a horse. Eric once wanted to teach me, but I was too afraid to get close to him then. 3 years were wasted for nothing. The rain fell harder and harder. The sky had turned completely dark. Alicia galloped into the dense forest. What on earth am I hoping for? He is still alive, right? He isn't hurt, right? The hooves splashed through the mud. Will this weather make the situation even worse? I used to count the days, longing for this contract marriage to end early. Now, I can only pray for his safety. Alicia pulled the reins tight. Now is not the time to think about these things. If I don't survive, I will never be able to save my husband. Calm down. Just keep this pace. The horse's hoof missed its step. Gravel rolled down into the abyss. Eric's voice rang out. Pull your leg out, quickly. You'll be dragged down along with the horse. He leaped forward. He caught the falling figure. Alicia's eyes snapped open. This was the first time in my life that a prayer received a response from God. Rain washed over the edge of the cavern. Moonlight pierced through the clouds, illuminating the firelight deep within the cave. Alicia opened her eyes. Lord Eric? Eric was shirtless, with white bandages wrapped around his abdomen. He sat by the fire, organizing his clothes. Alicia propped herself up. Her long hair slid over her shoulders. Is this a dream? Eric turned his head. His purple eyes reflected the firelight. You're awake. Are you hurt anywhere? Alicia reached out to touch his cheek. Her fingertips touched warm skin. This isn't a dream. She suddenly threw herself into Eric's arms. Her hands clung tightly around his neck. Eric froze in place. He let her lean against his chest. The fire crackled. A longsword was stuck slanted into the dirt. The two of them held each other tightly in the firelight. Alicia buried her face in his broad shoulders. This isn't a dream. He is still alive. He is still by my side. Alicia released her grip. She looked around at the dark rock walls. Where is this? Eric said. The rain was too heavy, so I found a place to rest temporarily. You fainted just now? From the shock, Alicia looked out at the endless night beyond the cave. Where are your guards? What are they all doing? Eric stared at the fire. The flames danced in his purple eyes. A few days ago, my subordinates intercepted a carrier pigeon. We couldn't trace the source, but they have clearly been backed into a corner. No wonder they lost their patience and used force during the standoff. I just didn't expect them to have gunpowder. The Viscount's persistence in the herb trade was perhaps just to cover up weapon smuggling? After the proposal was rejected, he couldn't answer to his patrons, so he had to set fire to the fields to erase all paths of retreat. The seized firearms have been sent to Joseph. If it's found that the manufacturer is from another country, the royal family will intervene quickly. Alicia looked anxious. If that's the case, won't the soldiers in the village be in danger? Eric pressed down on her shoulder. You don't need to worry. The men staying there grew up with me. I know their strength better than anyone. Even if their weapons are inferior, they won't lose to those crude thugs. Besides, our current location is unknown. Eric raised his hand, running his fingertips through Alicia's long hair. Going out blindly would only mean throwing our lives away. The most important thing now is to ensure your safety. Alicia hunched her shoulders. Her stomach let out a loud rumble. Eric spoke. Would you like something to eat? A wooden stick was propped over the fire. 2 fish were roasting above the flames. Oil seeped from their skin. Alicia took the roasted fish. She took a bite of the meat. It's delicious. I didn't know Lord Eric could actually cook. Eric gripped his longsword. This is an essential skill when marching. Boys of the Lanthimos family must learn it from a young age. Alicia lowered her eyes. To think a nobleman would learn to cook at home. I have never met his family since we married. On the wedding day, they only came by once to offer greetings. But I was so nervous then, I didn't dare to look up at all. Eric stopped his movements. His purple pupils shifted slightly. What is it? Is there something on my face? Alicia waved her arms in a panic. Not at all. Thank you for the meal. She chewed a large mouthful, trying to suppress her racing heart. What on earth is wrong with me? Perhaps it is just because he is safe. That is why I feel relieved. Since a moment ago, strange thoughts have been occupying my brain. Alicia covered her lips. Before the rain stops, must we stay together like this? Alicia stared at the bloodstained bandage. You are bleeding. Are you injured? Eric said. It is just a scratch from a branch when I fell off the cliff. I probably didn't bandage it correctly. I have never been good at handling these things. Alicia leaned in close. Her forehead pressed against his broad chest. It cannot stay like this. Never mind. Let me help you, Eric asked. Do you know how to treat wounds? Alicia unwrapped the rough cloth strip. I always treated my own wounds when I was a child. Back when I lived in Eliza, my sisters once kicked me off a cliff. I don't even remember what I did wrong back then. Actually, I didn't do anything. It seemed my very existence made the people around me feel unpleasant. Eric looked down at the top of her head. She is actually taking the initiative to mention her past. Alicia continued to reminisce. Fortunately, I only sprained my ankle back then. It wasn't life a threat. It was raining that day, just like today. I stayed alone in a pitch-black cave. Watching the rain fall and then stop, I survived on nuts and rainwater. After 2 whole days passed, I finally realized the cruel reality. In that place called Eliza, absolutely no one would come looking for me. Eric gripped her shoulders. What happened then? How did you survive? Alicia looked up abruptly. Her green pupils crashed into his gaze. Their breathing stalled at such a close distance. Alicia lowered her eyes. I dragged that injured leg and crawled back alone to that so-called home. She leaned against Eric's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. So, Lord Eric, I am truly glad that you are safe. I don't want to lie to myself anymore. According to the contract with him, I only need to play the role of his wife for 3 years, and then I can return to Elisa. But that place isn't my home at all. The place I want to return to is by your side. Alicia raised her head. There, the wound is finished being bandaged. You can put your clothes back on now. She looked down at her own neckline. She pressed her hands against the fabric over her chest. I suddenly remembered something. Was it you who helped me change my clothes? She stared at Eric's back. The air fell into a dead silence. Eric pressed a fist against his mouth and nose. He turned his face away to avoid her gaze. Yes, he explained in a low voice. His earlobes turned red. In this kind of weather, I was worried you would catch a cold. I am sorry, but I swear. I had my eyes closed at the time. I didn't see anything. Alicia leaned in front of him. She tilted her head to look at that flushing face. What are you talking about? It's not like we haven't crossed that line already. Eric closed his eyes. Trying to hide his embarrassment, Alicia covered her lips and giggled. She leaned against Eric's shoulder. The weather is very cold, so let's just lean together like this. The fire made the sound of wood cracking. The firelight flickered against the cave walls. Outside the cave, the night was deep. Alicia curled up in his arms. Lord Eric, your body temperature seems to be getting higher and higher. Eric did not answer. He only tightened his arms, locking her completely in his embrace. Alicia looked up in confusion. Eric lowered his head. A flush rose to his face. Avoiding her gaze, Alicia burst into a fit of laughter. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to. Eric leaned over and pressed his hands down, supporting himself on both sides of her body. You were mocking me just now, weren't you? Alicia shrugged her shoulders, laughing until tears seeped from the corners of her eyes. It tickles. Please spare me. Eric lowered his eyelids. Don't say that ever again. Do you understand? Alicia stopped her laughter. I understand. Grand Duke. Eric paused in his movements. What did you just call me? Alicia blinked her green eyes. She tilted her head to look at his profile. Grand Duke. Is it wrong to call you that? She cupped Eric's face. Her fingertips sank into his messy black hair. We are husband and wife, after all. Eric's gaze wavered in the dim light. What do you plan to do? Alicia brushed aside the stray hairs on her cheek. Gazing into his eyes, I can't just leave you alone like this. You are injured. You can't move right now. She washed her hands by the pool. It's getting late. Let's rest. Eric sat in the shadows, watching Alicia's back. Without saying a word, he suddenly reached out and grabbed Alicia's arm, pulling her into his arms with one stroke. Alicia's back pressed tightly against Eric's chest. The fire burned beside them. Eric turned his face. The tip of his nose pressed against Alicia's cheek. Do you think it can end like this? My wife. Alicia shrugged her shoulders. Wait, stop for a second. Eric, please calm down. Oh no. Hayes completely lost control. She gazed into Eric's eyes. This anger is completely different from before. I have gone too far. Eric approached her face. His purple eyes locked onto his prey. He is reclaiming dominance. Alicia lay on the ground facing up, her hair spread out on the floor. If I can't calm him down, I'm going to lose my life here. She reached out and pressed against Eric's chest. Wait a minute. Are you planning to go all the way? Absolutely not. Eric lowered his eyelids. Why not? We are husband and wife, aren't we? Alicia was stunned. Hayes using my own words against me. If things continue like this, letting reason strain within the heat, both reason and self will be swallowed by this man. She suddenly pushed Eric away. Don't get hurt. You must stay quiet. If you move too violently, what if the wound reopens? Eric looked down at his abdomen. This kind of minor injury is nothing at all. He suddenly tore off the bandage on his abdomen. The bandage snapped in the air, revealing firm muscles. Alicia's eyes widened. Her hands were folded over her chest. I stared blankly at the man in front of me. Eric propped himself up with one hand on the ground, his body shielding Alicia. If the wound opens, I will simply sew it back up. Alicia lay flat on her back. This isn't what I wanted. I clearly tried my best to refuse. Tears seeped from the corners of her eyes. Liar. I can't feel the flames. I can't hear the sound of the rain. I can't even perceive the passage of time. I am almost forgetting who I am. Eric stopped his movements. We are not at the manor. There are no contraceptives here. Perhaps we should stop here. Alicia grabbed his wrist. It's okay. I don't mind getting pregnant. As long as it is your child? Eric asked. Do you understand what this means? If we have a child, we must take on the responsibilities of parents. We must give them the best of everything in this world. Failure is absolutely not an option. The 3-year contract will be voided. I will never allow the mother of my child to leave me. Alicia turned her face slightly, gazing at the silhouette of Eric's face. I originally only meant to make a joke. I hadn't thought about things so far ahead. Eric tightened his arms around her. You will be Lady Lanthimos for the rest of your life. Are you sure you want to do this? Alicia leaned against Eric's shoulder and closed her eyes. Yes. The next day, Eric stood up and walked toward the horses. The ground is still very damp. We must hurry back. Before conditions worsen, Alicia wrapped her white cloak tightly around her. It hurts so much, my back, my legs and my arms. My whole body is in pain. Eric stood to the side with an expressionless face. Alicia's eyes widened. How can you keep such a plain face? While saying such serious things, I struggled in pain all night. Seeing me in this much discomfort, don't you feel even a little bit of guilt? Eric put his hand to his chin and looked away. That wasn't entirely my fault. Right. Alicia's voice suddenly rose in pitch. Why would you say that? Eric leaned down. Who was the one who started it? Alicia was at a loss for words. She avoided his gaze. Even so, you should have exercised some restraint. I can't even ride a horse now. Tears welled in the corners of her eyes. Her hands tightly gripped the edges of her cloak. Eric bowed his head. Sorry, Alicia, wrapped in her white cloak, curled her body into a ball. She covered her mouth and laughed out loud. With tears still hanging at the corners of her eyes, Eric stared straight ahead, his expression cold and stern. Thus, their first postmarital argument came to an end. Eric vaulted onto his horse and pulled Alicia into his arms in front of him. They rode through the lush greenery. The villagers stopped what they were doing and looked into the distance. Look, it's the Grand Duke and the Duchess. Thank goodness, you are both safe and sound. The criminal has been caught and is currently being interrogated. The village head is waiting to receive the two of you. Eric nodded slightly. Understood. The women folded their hands over their chests. Thank heaven, we are saved. Alicia stood at the back of the crowd, watching the bustling scene in front of her. Is that Noble, that person? Joseph leaned against the window, the corners of his mouth turning up. You're back. Alicia hid behind Eric and covered her mouth. Why has everyone suddenly become so formal? Eric lowered his eyelids. Strictly speaking, he is the emperor of this country. Alicia froze in place. Her pupils trembled. To think he is the emperor?